You're doing, oh, great. That's all I need is my picture on the internet. I'm in real trouble.
That's like 10 people.
Okay.
10 people.
Right on. So, hi everybody. My name is Xavion Bond, and today I'm going to be giving you some information on why you should buy local foods,
Woo!
You're
especially in
practicing
Humboldt
your
County.
speech on that.
All right, all right.
But
Yeah.
tell us. Come on, go ahead.
Here we
Humble
go.
grass-fed beef? What?
He's got a presentation.
So, before I get started, I'll give you some background information about myself, why I feel this is such a big issue. And originally, I'm from Los Angeles County, where 1 million people live in a food desert. And with that, they don't have access to food that comes from around them. They have to go, miles to the grocery store sometimes if they're in the lower class neighborhoods. And, I never really saw any farms around. I never saw any kind of cows or anything. So I always was cool with like, oh, cows and my milk come from Texas. That's where cowboys are. That's where cows are. So that's where it comes from until the, happy cows come from California commercial starts coming on and popping up. But still, I had no idea where my food came from. And so it wasn't until, I moved to Humboldt where I started seeing like little signs that said like, oh, we use Humboldt grass-fed beef, and oh, my milk comes from these places and whatnot. And, I never really realized the importance of that. And when I first started grocery shopping for myself over here, I would go to Safeway, and I would, to get like the reddest of the red meat, I would have to go early in the morning. It was usually more expensive, and I still didn't look at where it was coming from. And then most of the milk and cheese that I got was like the Safeway brand, which, I didn't get where that was coming from either. So, with all that said, I'm going to explain, why it is that you should support the local food producers in Humboldt County, especially because it promotes, it prevents Humboldt from becoming a food desert like Los Angeles that I lived in, that I'm going to get into. It cycles money through the community, and it supports a positive, progressive agenda in food politics that, the county of Humboldt kind of has, because it's a very progressive, forward-thinking place about, the food it feeds its people and the food that gets produced here. So first, I'm going to get into what is a food desert. A food desert, by the USDA definition, is
You should just run for mayor. You're good.
It's by the definition, it's a place in an urban community where it's hard to get food. Within a 1 mile radius, people pretty much have to either take a car and get their food, and there's pretty much not really that many healthy options. It wasn't up until I got up here that I started seeing organic labels on fruits and vegetables and meats, unless you shopped at Whole Foods, and that was only in the richer parts of town, And so how that affects the community is, when there's not good food around, cheap food has, fast food market, it's really big around those places. And where I live, there you can walk to a fast food place before you hit an organic grocery store. You could probably hit 6 of them on the same street, and you see that those cause health problems within the community. And a lot of people in the lower income communities are obese. They have problems with heart disease and diabetes and other kind of health problems that you get from those types. And you come living in a place like Humboldt, you have a variety of stores that offer almost nothing but organic, food sources.
Be a sour beer.
Yeah, even your beer will be organic here. You will see organic beer before you see GMO meat in some places, And that just goes to show how much people kind of care and take an interest in, you know, you see a place where people don't take an interest, and it really affects the community. And so to kind of protect that and promote that around the community is very important, because I came from a place where no one really cared and it didn't really matter, and it really affected everyone's health. And so to kind of see how the community, or at least the grocery stores in the community, compare, to see where, you know, where your money goes actually when you go to certain stores, and see who supports the local food producers. I went to Safeway, Murphy's, the Co-op, and Wild Berries to see, you know, where they got their meat and dairy products for, and to see, you know, where the money's kind of going. Because in Los Angeles, you know, any money spent on food wasn't going towards Los Angeles. It's going somewhere in the Midwest or somewhere in Central California. That was going to some even bigger conglomerate somewhere else in another state. And so the first store I went to was Safeway, and I found that most of their meat, you know, it was funny because the butcher didn't know specifically where it was coming from.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it was just, she knew the company that they sent it, and, you know, when I tried to look up the company Excel, it sent me to another conglomerate that, you know, was another corporate company, and some of the meat is usually labeled made in USA, which means it's come from here, but the ground beef I found was, you know, it actually had one that said made in USA, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. So they had thrown all those meats together in one. And the dairy products were all Safeway brand dairy products, which I would assume maybe they're using the same dairy farms. I couldn't get that information. But there were no local options for any of the farms over here. The next store I went to was the Co-op, and they had no pre-packed meat. All their meat was freshly cut, or straight from the butcher or the distributor, and all theirs was from Humboldt County. Either it be Bear River or Humboldt County grass-fed, and it's always fresh because there is no pre-packing. You know, what you order is what you get. When it's run out, it's done. You know, unless they come and bring some more. And their dairy products were all Humboldt Creamery. It's milk, their cheese, and their cheese was Lolita cheese, and it was all pretty much local options. Wild Berries, I found that they use Bear River beef, Painted Hills certified organic. You know, both stores, the Co-op and Wild Berries, used all organic meat. They only carried all organic beef and steak and chicken. So, yes, Wild Berries. And Safeway, they didn't have any USDA labeled certified organic beef. They just had certified tender, which doesn't mean that it's certified organic. It doesn't use antibiotics or any kind of GMOs. It just means that it meets a certain tenderness rating. And when I went to Murphy's, I found that their ground beef, like Safeway, kind of all said made in the USA. It didn't specify, but their muscle cuts, you know, their steak and their flank steaks were all Humboldt County grass-fed, which is a company based in Arcata. And all their dairy products, the Co-op, Wild Berries, and Murphy's, use Lolita cheese and Humboldt Creamery for their dairy products, which means that the money is getting cycled in the community towards those businesses. You know, the money, Lolita cheese is 2 cities down. You have Bear River that's in the same area. Humboldt Grass-Fed is an Arcata company. And so the money that's going towards them is getting cycled back in the community, because now you have food to eat. They have money to make, you know, the best kind of food, to have the resources to make food to provide. And we don't have to go and have food trucks shipped in with a bunch of food to provide for everyone from all these small places, because that can even have its economic and environmental impacts because it's going to cost more if we have to go further to get, gas already costs more because where we are.
And it should be worse quality because of the distance.
Yeah, exactly. The distance is going to play a role in the actual quality of the food. And, not to mention you have all these diesel trucks rolling through bringing food. That's just more smog, more environmental, just all around things we don't want around. You don't want to have a bunch of pollutants and fat trucks clogging up the 101. And so with that, Humboldt County is just kind of an environmentally forward-thinking place. And even in the food politics, we have Measure P that's coming up that, is going to prevent anyone from producing any GMO foods in the county.
What is that?
That's Measure P on the ballot November 4th this year.
November 4th is very exciting.
Exactly. It's a good time to vote. And so with that, it's going to prevent, it's another step forward towards making sure that we don't have certain unhealthy foods even being produced here and being exposed to it. That it's not going to prevent people from selling GMO foods here, but it does take a step towards getting rid of some of the unhealthy foods from even being produced here. And, Arcata itself has an ordinance on corporate fast food places where they've pushed them out, which has allowed, more money to be cycled within the community because you have restaurants who actually use the meat being produced. I pass through Central California and go to McDonald's and I wonder, they don't get their meat from here, even though there's millions of cows right here, McDonald's doesn't buy their meat from that cow farm across the street. But when you come to Humboldt County, you go to Stars and they use beef that's grown right down the street,
Taste the difference.
and you can definitely taste
I
it.
got a side interjection. I just built the new McDonald's in Eureka, and the owner is a real nice guy. He owns the other McDonald's there and the one on Gentile Lane. But when he'd take us to lunch, he wouldn't go to McDonald's and cater our lunch for McDonald's. He'd take us across the street to the nice Indian food buffet.
Exactly, because that's how this county is. It's forward thinking. People are really conscious about what goes into their bodies. Even what goes into community. You can see in the trees and whatnot that people take care of the environment, and it helps them take care of themselves. And that's why there's more healthy people around Arcata than I can think that I lived around.
It's funny because the rest of the population as a whole doesn't really even consider it.
Nope.
It's something they don't know. They just never really thought about it.
Well, there's also
And then
an
the food
interesting
desert.
thing where it's like, if you live in a place with a lot of cows and a lot of farm communities, you're not necessarily getting the best beef, regardless if you're eating local or anything like that.
It's
So
corn
it's like,
fed.
look,
It's just
look for organic.
Yeah, well, I mean,
organic
it all.
veggies, like,
That's why I'm saying Humboldt
well-fed
specifically
cows.
because of their policy
Cool.
on.
Cool.
That's why we need to promote here.
Yeah, well, no, that's what, yeah.
Well,
I
if
was
you go
just
to the
saying,
market,
like,
you're
in
gonna get
Fresno,
grass-fed. You go to the market, you're gonna get grass-fed beef, not fucking
Yeah,
corn-fed,
yeah.
fucking dirt raised.
just
Exactly.
just look
You know what I'm
for
saying?
nice foods.
Yeah, pretty much. So with all that said, put your money where your mouth is. Support the local foods that are out here,
Yeah.
and take the little steps, or at least local foods that are doing it right. Support people that are, not using GMO or not using any kind of harmful chemicals to produce their food, and go out and vote. November 4th, and continue to support your local grocery stores.
Woo!
Hey, guys,